Hello everyone, my name is Anime Archivist, and today I'll be ranking the My Hero Academia movies from least good to best. Now I want to start off by saying I enjoyed all 4 movies, I just enjoyed some more than others, and this list is based entirely on my own opinion. With that out of the way, let's get into it. A group of people believe quirks are getting more and more out of control with each generation, so they set off bombs that activate and kill anyone with the quirk, leaving only the quirkless alive. Heroes from all over the world start an operation to take out the group known as Humorize that is setting off the bombs. Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki are on a team that hits the base in Otheon. After heroes all over the world hit the bases, they couldn't find a single trigger bomb. They realized the group knew heroes would come for them and hid the bombs. The story then shows a teenager named Rhodey getting ready for work and taking care of his siblings. It turns out his job was making shady pickups. When a robbery ends with Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki chasing the robbers, they pass a case to Rhodey, who ends up getting chased by Deku. During the chase, Rhodey gets his case mixed up with another holding something wanted by the group named Humorize, who is planning to set off the bombs. The leader of Humorize, Fleck Turn, sends an assassin named Boros to hunt down the case that Rhodey has. He also gets the local police to get that case and kill anyone in the way. Deku decides to protect Rhodey because it doesn't make sense to use lethal force. Deku not only escapes the police but also fights off Boros. Fleck Turn then spins a fake story and pins 12 murders on Deku, so he's wanted. Deku and Rhodey then go on the road to leave Otheon and go to the neighboring country of Clade. While Deku and Rhodey are on the run, Todoroki investigates what is going on with the case. Todoroki and Bakugo then go to meet Deku on the border. When Deku goes to sleep, Rhodey tries to trade the case in exchange for the villains to leave him alone, but they then try to kill him. Deku arrives and saves Rhodey and even gets hurt, saving his life. Deku fights off the assassin and the thug, then escapes with Rhodey and the case. Deku and Rhodey borrow a car and go to the Otheon and Clade border. While they get there, they're attacked by Barros and another thug. Right when Deku was getting overwhelmed fighting them off while also protecting Rhodey, Todoroki and Bakugo show up and help Deku. Right when Bakugo was going to capture Barros, she kills herself rather than get captured. When they regroup, they find a secret compartment on the case with an information stick. However, it is now that Fleck Turn decides to start the countdown on the bombs and publicly announce that they have 2 hours. The heroes then start to search for bombs in all major cities. Meanwhile, Deku and the others find out that the stick they found could disable the bombs at the source, and the first bomb was deployed to gather heroes close to the other bombs. Deku, Todoroki, and Bakugo find the secret lead base and go by themselves to disarm the system and stop all the bombs. Deku and the others arrive at the base where they start to fight through the guards. Bakugo fights 2 twins who can create swords from their arms while Deku and Todoroki go inside to disarm the system. Todoroki runs into a thug who's on an enhancement drug and can manipulate elements like fire, ice, and water. Deku finds the system defended by the leader, Fleck Turn, whose quirk is that he can reflect anything and never be touched. Deku tries to fight Fleck, but his every attack is reflected. Deku tries to run around him, but Fleck shoots lasers at Deku. When those aren't fast enough to hit Deku, Fleck uses mirrors to make the angles random and catch Deku off guard. Just as Deku was going to give up, Rhodey shows up and acts like he's swapping teams. Then he runs for the controls while Deku holds off Fleck Turn. While Rhodey runs to shut off the bombs, outside Bakugo uses howitzer impact and buries the twins under rubble, beating them. Todoroki outside was nearly drowned but uses his flashfire fist and overpowered the thug's manipulation, beating him. Finally, Deku goes 100% and pushes Fleck's resistance past its limits. Then Deku moved much faster than light and hit Fleck with the United States of World Smash, which defeated Fleck. When Deku runs to the controls, he finds Rhodey had made in time and disarmed the bombs. So I ranked this last for a few reasons. The first one was that I wasn't too big of a fan of Punch Harder being the answer to a villain who perfectly counters Deku. I wish there was a little more creativity to that answer. But I also wasn't a fan of how the movie heavily marketed new suits that were used for all of less than 5 minutes. Also, the movie is called World Heroes Mission, but takes place almost exclusively in a country that's not even real, without showing the rest of the world. I mean, we got glimpses, but it didn't really show the rest of the world. There's also some pretty blatant corruption, like with the chief of police. and no one seemed like they were in any rush to fix that. I enjoyed the movie, especially the Bakugo and Todoroki spotlight fights, but overall, out of all the movies, this one was the weakest for me. During the time that Japan's heroes were at war with villains, people lived in communities while heroes tried to stop villains. While Deku responds to a villain attack, he finds the villain has a hostage, but while Deku tries to save her, a new person joins to try and kill her. Deku stops them when the Galini crime family takes her, but what is most surprising is that the lead of the family looks like All Might. He declares himself the new symbol of peace. He then uses his quirk to swallow a city in light. Deku and the other heroes then wake up in different places like a jungle, a city, and an amusement park. Meanwhile, the villain calls the real All Might and declares to finish what All Might started. However, when All Might calls him a villain, he adopts the name Dark Might. His light had created a giant floating fortress and it started to make its way towards UA, taking everyone into it on the way. Deku runs into the guy who tried to kill the hostage earlier. It was a butler with a gun for an arm, which was helpful since they were in an area where quirks didn't work. Meanwhile, Todoroki and his group ran into a member of the Galini crime family who trapped them in daydreams, while Bakugo and his group got trapped in a dungeon with monsters. Deku and the butler found the guy suppressing Deku's quirk and defeated him, when Dark Might showed up and knocked out Deku. Bakugo, on the other hand, fought his way through the dungeon and beat the guy running it. Deku and the butler found the city Todoroki was in and found everyone passed out. They found the villain had put them in daydreams only to be put in one themselves. Luckily, the spirits of the old One For All users freed Deku, who helped the butler, named Julio, also get free. Julio shot the villain, waking everyone up from the daydreams. However, Julio then tried to shoot the hostage from the beginning again, named Anna, only to be stopped by Deku. The villain escaped to Anna, then Julio explained Anna's quirk is that she can boost people's quirk, but it's constantly active and builds up, which affects her health. Julio has the quirk Neutralization, which essentially resets her. However, he can only do it with his right hand, which he no longer has. Anna wants Julio to kill her before it goes out of control, which is why he's been trying to kill her. The heroes tell Julio there are other ways to save her and tell him not to give up. Just then, Bakugo and his team arrives, so all of 1A is together again. Bakugo, Deku, Todoroki, Tokiyomi, and Julio go to face Dark Might, all while the rest of 1A evacuate civilians. Meanwhile, the fortress is on its way to wipe out UA. Tokiyomi stays to fight created monsters while the rest move on. Then Bakugo and Todoroki stay to fight two of the Galini crime family. Then Deku and Julio run into another member of the family, but Deku defeats him. Meanwhile, 1A fights off an army of monsters while Togata leads the civilians out of the fortress. Deku and Julio proceed to Dark Might's final room as they learn his quirk, Alchemy. He can change anything into something else as long as he has a catalyst. Deku and Julio start to fight Dark Might together. Julio is nearly killed but survived by Deku, who starts to fight Dark Might one-on-one. Meanwhile, Bakugo and Todoroki win their match against the members of the crime family they were fighting. Deku gets trapped and watches as Dark Might and a villain he had stationed were going to control Anna to kill Julio when Julio's items worked on their own, knocking the person controlling Anna out. Bakugo and Todoroki show up to assist Deku, but even all three of them together, they were still losing until each of them pushed their limits and attacked with their power, knocking Dark Might out and revealing his true face. After he was knocked out and his quirk started to go out of control, Deku started to get Julio to Anna when Dark Might woke up and pushed his quirk, then attacked Deku. Deku, Todoroki, and Bakugo tried to attack him, but he was still drawing on power from Anna and getting stronger. Julio was then able to activate his quirk even without his arm to neutralize Anna. Then Deku, Todoroki, and Bakugo all released a final attack that defeated Dark Might. It turns out Julio completely erased Anna's quirk, which means she was no longer in any danger. The movie wraps up with everyone cheering for the heroes and Julio reunited with Anna. I ranked this movie here because I enjoyed that this movie gave more of a spotlight on the other heroes, or at least more of a spotlight than World Heroes Mission did, as well as introducing new characters and developing them well. I also enjoyed how creative they got with Dark Might's powers, and the visuals behind it were pretty good. I wasn't a fan of how often characters did nothing or just didn't react to part of the plot. I also feel like this movie made a few characters weaker, so the movie didn't wrap up as fast. In the last movie, and even in the first My Hero movie, Deku casually moves faster than bullets, but in this movie he's regularly slower than them or unwilling to be as fast. Overall, I did enjoy this movie more than World Heroes Mission, but this next two were a bit better in my opinion. The movie starts off in America showing All Might in his prime stopping a robbery. At this point, All Might was a college student who stopped crime with his buddy Dave. Then All Might woke up from a memory. He and Deku were landing on an island known as Eye Island. All Might had been invited and decided to bring Deku along with him. Once landed, All Might and Deku talked about the island like how it was built so the world's best scientists gathered to build and research in peace. As they talked about how quirks can be used freely here, All Might got recognized, but once they got clear of the fans, All Might told Deku that he's here to see an old friend. Just then, a girl came up on a pogo stick and called All Might uncle. She introduces herself as Melissa Shield, daughter of All Might's buddy Dave. It shows some villains sneak onto the island with some help of someone on the inside, but it's not revealed who. Melissa takes All Might and Deku to see All Might's buddy Dave in his office, then Deku and Melissa go to explore the island while All Might and his buddy Dave stay behind to catch up. But it was really a cover because All Might couldn't hold his muscle farm any longer. Also, if you're wondering, yes, I just really like saying his buddy Dave. While exploring the island, Deku and Melissa run into Deku's classmates Uraraka, Momo, and Jiro. He asks Melissa to hide that he came with All Might. They all go to a local cafe where they run into Kaminari and Mineta, who are working there on break. They also run into Tenya, who's representing his family. While talking about continuing exploring, they run into Bakugo and Kirishima, who are trying a villain course. Uraraka insists Deku tries, and he does, coming close to Bakugo's score. Then Todoroki goes and beats them both. Meanwhile, back at the lab, All Might's buddy Dave scans All Might's quirk and sees his quirk level is dropping. All Might is confident in the next generation, but his buddy Dave is worried about what will happen. Back with the students, they decide to all meet at a party happening that night with pro heroes. But before they go, Melissa brings Deku to her lab where she says she has no quirk and gives Deku an arm gauntlet that can handle 3 times All Might's power. Then they leave to get ready for the party. As they arrived at the party, they are all in formal clothes like suits and dresses while meeting in the lobby, except for Kirishima and Bakugo, who got lost in the tower that the party was at. The island then goes into lockdown for a bomb threat. It was then that the villains crash the party and take everyone hostage. Deku, Uraraka, Momo, Jiro, Ida, Todoroki, Kaminari, Mineta, and Melissa weren't captured since they were still in the lobby. Bakugo and Kirishima also avoided capture, but because they were lost. Deku and Jiro find a window above the party and see All Might captured, who tells them not to fight. The group debates, but Deku suggests going to the top and turning off the security system holding everyone hostage. They aren't sure, but eventually all agree to try and save the island. The villains take All Might's buddy Dave and his assistant to the top of the tower to unlock the vault while the students start to make their way up the stairs when Mineta sets off an alarm alerting the villains to the students' position. As the students pass through the plant factory to find another way up, some villains come looking for the students. They find Bakugo and Kirishima, but they get spotted. Todoroki, Bakugo, and Kirishima stay behind to face the villains while everyone moves on. Kirishima is knocked out, quickly leaving Todoroki and Bakugo to face the villains. The rest of the group keeps moving while Bakugo and Todoroki finish defeating the 2 villains they faced when they send tower defenses to stop them. The group runs into some droid defenses, but together they clear them up and keep going up the tower until they get to the server room and get attacked by more droids. Deku, Uraraka, and Melissa keep going while the others stay to buy time until they get captured. They get to an area outside the tower where Uraraka uses her quirk to float Deku and Melissa to the top when she gets attacked by droids. Bakugo saves her just in time for Deku and Melissa to get to the next area. Melissa and Deku are attacked by a villain who cuts Melissa's arm but is beat by Deku. They keep moving as Deku beats 2 villains with guns quickly, only to find All Might's buddy Dave and the villains in the vault. They find out the villains are hired by Dave to help him steal an invention built by Dave. It was an invention to boost someone's quirk. Dave wanted to use it to save All Might's quirk, but the higher-ups thought the invention was too dangerous. Dave and his assistant hired actors to act like villains, but Dave didn't know the villains were real. Deku fights the leader of the villain crew, a man named Wolfram who can control metal. Deku is losing, but Melissa shuts off the island defenses, which frees the heroes. Wolfram takes All Might's buddy Dave and the device hostage and goes to the roof, but Deku follows them and tries to save them. Just as Deku fails, All Might comes in and saves them. However, Wolfram had put on the quirk-enhancing device and starts to fight All Might. Just as Wolfram has All Might trapped, the rest of the students show up and start to help All Might. He starts to push Wolfram back, only to find out Wolfram has two quirks. It turns out All for One had given him an extra quirk just to hurt All Might. Just when All Might was going to lose, Deku saved him. Together, All Might and Deku team up and start to face Wolfram together. They get an assist from Bakugo and Todoroki. Each All Might and Deku smash their way through Wolfram's defense, then let out a double Detroit smash to finish his last defense. The students cheer for All Might and Deku as they go beyond, and in one final punch from both of them, defeated Wolfram. Deku punches so hard he destroyed Melissa's glove. As the sun rose, everyone was safe, and All Might's buddy Dave saw Deku as the next symbol of peace. All Might and Dave say Melissa and Deku are the next generation. So this was the first My Hero movie, and it did have some rough parts, like people kept just looking at each other and having entire mental conversations with each other. Also, a lot of Class 1A was just on the island inexplicably, like Tokiyomi and Sero. I also refuse to believe that Kirishima and Mineta just got a part-time job on this supposedly high-security island. However, I did enjoy the movie costumes instead of just like normal outfits. I also enjoyed the final fight of this movie much more than the other two that I ranked. When All Might hit that T-pose, that went really hard. I like that this movie spotlighted more of the class, and Melissa is probably the best developed movie character other than maybe Rhodey. I also like that this movie is referenced not only in the show, but also in other movies. I also enjoyed the plot of fighting their way up a tower. It was a really difficult decision between Two Heroes and You're Next, but Two Heroes had a better final fight of the two, and saying your buddy Dave was real fun. But I could honestly see an argument for putting You're Next above it, but as of the time of this ranking, I was leaning more towards Two Heroes. The movie opens with a group of pro-heroes chasing the League of Villains who are transporting something. Endeavor stopped them only to find out that they were copies and the person that they were transporting had escaped. It was a villain named Nine who met up with the rest of his crew. On an island off the coast of Japan, we see all of Class 1A acting as pro-heroes for this island. Everyone helping people of the island except for Bakugo, who isn't interested if there isn't a villain, while Deku, Uraraka, and Jiro go to find a missing boy. He thinks about how Class 1A was stationed on Nabu Island as pro-heroes, while the hero department finds a new hero for Nabu Island. Deku, Uraraka, and Jiro find the boy after looking for over an hour, but it turns out it was faked by the boy's older sister to make the heroes look bad. The older sister is named Mahiro and the young boy was named Katsuma. That night, after everyone ate and went to sleep, Deku was working out and Bakugo had the night watch. Then Katsuma showed up to tell Deku and Bakugo that a villain is on their island. Back in Japan, the villain known as Nine attacked Katsuma and Mahiro's dad, then stole his quirk before summoning lightning so powerful it could level buildings. It turns out Nine needs a quirk that can heal himself, but their dad didn't have the right one. Katsuma does, so the villains decide to go and take it. Back on Nabu Island, Deku, Bakugo, and Katsuma arrive, while Bakugo starts to fight the giant villain, only to find out it was another trick by Mahiro. The next morning, Katsuma shows up to apologize to Deku and Bakugo for the villain incident. Katsuma says he wants to be a hero, but Mahiro thinks being a hero is too dangerous. After talking to Deku, Katsuma resolves to be a hero, but while he tells Mahiro the villains arrive and destroy any way off the island, then the phone lines before going off to find Katsuma. The villains spread out and attack different locations all over the island. Class 1A splits up to try and stop the villains. On the beach, Todoroki and Tokiyomi with others of Class 1A lose to the villain, but he leaves them alive. Bakugo defeats one of the villains while Deku faces the leader Nine. Deku avoids lasers and other quirks, leading Deku to realize Nine has multiple quirks. Deku loses and nearly has his quirk stolen when Nine says he can't handle all of Deku's quirks. Just before Nine kills Deku, Bakugo shows up and saves Deku, then faces Nine but loses as well. Deku tries to hop in and help, but they both lose. Before Nine could take Katsuma, he keels over. Backup arrives for Nine, but some of 1A arrives and rescues Deku, Bakugo, Katsuma, and Mahiro. Class 1A brings the people of the island to a shelter while Deku and Bakugo are out cold from their injuries. The villains talk about how the overuse of 9's quirk is destroying his body, which is why he needs Katsuma's quirk. Class 1A decides what to do when Deku and Bakugo show up and come up with a plan to defeat the villains by forcing 9 to overuse his quirk. They plan to bring him to the ruins and split them up while keeping Madara and Katsuma close. As the plan starts, it seems to be working at first, with the villains getting split up and facing teams made specifically to face them. Todoroki, Ida, Kirishima, and Tsuyu face Chimera. Ashido and Tokiyomi face a villain in a cave, while Uraraka, Sero, and Mineta try to make 9 use his quirk. Just as 9 defeats his group, Deku and Bakugo show up and attack ready for round 2. Meanwhile, Tokiyomi and Ashido start to lose, but when Ashido is injured, Tokiyomi loses control. The villain brings down the cave rather than lose to Tokiyomi. The remaining 2 fights continue with the villains getting the upper hand, and 9 even nearly beating Deku and Bakugo again. Chimera fully transforms and starts to use lasers, but Todoroki's team works as a wall, getting Todoroki to the villain, as Todoroki defeats the villain but passes out after. Deku and Bakugo go to finish off 9, only for 9 to summon a lightning bolt so large the entire ruins felt it. Jiro, Ojiro, and Shoji try to slow 9 down but are quickly defeated. Just before 9 takes Katsuma's quirk, Deku and Bakugo show up and continue to fight 9. But 9 stops holding back and summons a storm big enough to destroy the entire island. Deku uses 100% and Bakugo uses Howitzer Impact, but it still couldn't pierce his defenses until 9 captured both Deku and Bakugo. With the island still being destroyed and the rest of Class 1A defeated, Deku comes up with a plan to stop 9. Deku transferred One for All to Bakugo, which not only boosted his strength, but his quirk as well. Together they punched with enough force to dissipate the island-destroying storm. Together, using the power of 2 One for Alls, they defeated 9 and knocked him into the ocean. Bakugo and Deku passed out, knowing Deku wouldn't have his abilities anymore. The pro heroes show up after all the fighting is over to rescue the injured and take the villains into custody. All Might finds Deku and Bakugo and also finds that One for All chose to stay with Deku. Everyone got healed up and Class 1A stayed to help clean up the island. 9 found his way back to the mainland and found Shigaraki was waiting for him and killed 9. As the class leaves the island, Deku says he looks forward to seeing Katsuma at UA someday. So, in my opinion, this was the best My Hero Academia movie. The animation was the best of all 4, and the final battle was phenomenal with Deku and Bakugo team-ups were amazing. The movie also did really good with giving spotlights to the rest of Class 1A. I think the villain was the most involved and with the best ties to the main series. It wasn't perfect. I feel like they heavily nerfed Todoroki to spotlight Deku and Bakugo. Also, unlike the other movies, the movie-exclusive characters in this one weren't great. Found the kids annoying. Other than these 2 complaints, the rest I had is nitpicky. It's a great movie, one of my overall favorite anime movies, definitely ranked number 1. So now that I've gone over every movie, let's look at the ranking again. Number 4, World Heroes Mission. Number 3, You're Next. Number 2, Two Heroes. And number 1, Heroes Rising. Again, this ranking is based on my opinion, but I gave my reasoning as well. I'll also say You're Next and Two Heroes can be interchangeable based on my mood, but I like the final fight of Two Heroes more than You're Next, but Heroes Rising is firmly in first place. The music, animation, and characterization ranks it above the rest. Thank you all for watching. If you agree or want to share your own ranking, just drop it in the comments. If there is something you want me to rank next, then also leave it in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.